Hi and welcome to a follow-up of the last video where we in more detail will go through Russian banknotes of the early 20th century. So what we have here is a rather complete set of the banknote that existed back then. Now the low rubles, 1 ruble was a large silver coin, but it also existed as a banknote. Here we can see the model of 1898 of 1 ruble. And one thing to note before we continue is that yes, these are the original models as they looked at those dates, but with some exceptions, most of the banknotes shown here are later prints made during the Russian Civil War. Primarily, if not exclusively, by the Red side, which controlled the printing press of the major cities. So, yes, it is a model 1898 as one would look, but most likely it's a later print. So despite being uncirculated, it doesn't fetch that much money. Although, as an example of the type itself, it's of course not worthless and it's worth collecting. But an earlier banknote from 1898 or the 1900s, 1900 to 1910, would be more valuable, of course. And how to as this one, as with other banknotes, how to discover this is through the serial number. I myself use numista.com, a numismatic website, as a resource here, because it lists the serial numbers of which were printed during the Russian Empire, the Provisional Government of 1917, and later the Reds in late 1917 and onwards. So this is the Russian 1 ruble. I actually did not know that there was a 1 ruble banknote. I haven't really collected much Russian banknotes until this year, actually. Now I got the chance to buy a very decent, very good actually, collection for a fair price. So I did, and I don't regret it one bit. But I also got some duplicates that I will want to sell off. We can check out the watermark, by the way. You can see the watermark, so it is an proper banknote, uncirculated. So that is the 1 ruble. Moving on, we had a fancy 3 ruble. Now, Russia is one of those countries that has a free denomination for some reason. This is the model of 1905. One large 3 Cyrillic letters. Really fancy artistic banknote. Really pretty. This one feels pretty standard, but this is a work of art, in my opinion. Also uncirculated, with more large 3s. But moving on, in my opinion, more common, but I don't know. But earlier, my earliest experience with collecting Russian banknotes of this era is collecting these ones. That will say the 10 and the 5 ruble banknotes. These ones were as well printed during the Russian Civil War, 1917 to 1919, in pretty many iterations or batches, if you want to call it that. So the 10 ruble is the model of 1909. And I believe it's 1909, yes, for the 5 ruble as well. Here you can see the imperial crown, the coat of arms, and a bunch of text. So this is pretty common, and these are both pretty cheap actually. You can buy a bunch of these ones, uncirculated even, for not much at all. I have at least 10, I think 10 of each. So yeah, not that uncommon. So that were the 1, 3, 5 and 10 rubles. We're moving on to the 25 ruble, also the issue of 1909. Now the 25 denomination is also rare in my opinion, not many countries have it. Iceland and Estonia are some examples. But at least it's more than the 3 denomination, because that one's I think only Russia use. So this is a rather large banknote, and well, 25 rubles used to also be a lot of money, so that's not surprising. Not often that a commoner would carry around that much money, I suppose. Maybe I'm prejudgmental here. And then a angry portrait of Tsar Alexander II, I believe. It says, no, Alexander III. One angry man. This being issued around 30 years after his death. So yeah, so these are the, although they're probably printed later, as I have said already too many times, these are the standard circulation banknotes that would have been used in 1909, along with the other ones previously showed. Before the war, before the inflation, before, well, everything, and the collapse, and the many competing sites and so on. So moving forward, we also have this 50 ruble banknote. So we're going up by twice the amount. Now I don't actually know who this fellow is, but I suppose I can a Tsar most likely. Alexander the First perhaps. Or not. I can put it in text. Now this is the model of 1899. And it really doesn't look that much at the banknote. It really does look more like a bond or a diploma. Like, yeah, like a very old banknote. Not something that it's something that would be locked up in a safe, not like handed over in a transaction. And you have one large 50. Now this side does more remind you of a banknote though. $50. So it looked like that. That and the 25 over there. A little bit larger than the 50 or the 25 banknote, I mean. But moving on, it doesn't end there. Of course, we're going twice over again and have a very large, but not the largest, the 100 ruble banknote. The issue of 1910. Again, probably, most likely, printed during the Russian Civil War. And that can be found out through the serial number. Now this one, of course, used to be folded. It's a bit folded, but not overly much. So here we can see Empress Catherine the Great of the 1700s. It's 100 ruble. And a backwards 3 for some reason. Who knows? Who knows? And then a lot of blank space. But I believe that that is due to there being a watermark over there. Indeed. It's a watermark of the Empress. So you know that you don't have a I can't speak. That you don't have a fake banknote. So that is the 100 ruble. Very, very lightly circulated. But it's not the end. It's really not the end. Because over here we have the 500 ruble banknote. I believe this is the highest standard denomination banknote. The 1,000 rubles banknote that existed during this time were more like bonds or certificates issued for wealth or stocks or such. They were not proper banknotes. But as for the proper banknotes, this would have been the largest of them all. Being the issue of 1912. So just 5 years before the collapse of the Russian Empire, 2 years before the start of the First World War. It's another royalist imperial banknote with a watermark. And look and behold, it's Peter the Great. which also, as you might imagine, is featured on the other side. Not really fancy portrait here. 500 rubles. Redeemable in gold. And you can see this banknote is so huge that it has actually been folded 1, 2, 3 times. Like that and that. Now there's a mad dog over here. Excuse me for that. So yeah, not uncirculated, but actually a circulated banknote. I doubt it was circulated in 1912 though. Then it wouldn't be folded like this. So I rather believe that it was circulated in the late 1910s after the revolution, and with the value of 500 rubles really deteriorating, as well it might have been printed by the Reds after the revolution, it would have been circulated quite a lot, as you can see with the folds. Because prior to the war, prior to the revolution, this banknote is something that would have been exclusively in a bank safe and not ever used, most likely in an ordinary transaction. Because rubles were redeemable in gold, and how much gold I shall attempt to put on the screen how much gold 500 rubles were redeemable in and the value of that gold today. Because if I go back in time and had used these prior to the revolution, prior to the war, and gotten it in gold and traveled back, I would be really rich, I feel like. Really, really rich. So that's the 500 ruble. You can do a size comparison, by the way, with the 100 ruble, which is just a bit smaller actually. Not that. It's smaller, but not by that much. And then the 50 ruble, the 25 ruble, and then we have the 10 ruble, 5 ruble, 3 ruble, that for some reason is it's actually the same size as the 5 ruble, which is, they are both a little smaller than the 10 ruble, as you can see there. And finally the 1 ruble over here, which is the smallest of the bunch. You do perfect, but you can see a size comparison there with the 1, 3 and 5, 10, 25. Is the 25 and 50 the same size? Where is the 25 one? Yeah. Or no, they're not. There, no. The 25 one is smaller. It's barely a bit bigger than the 10 ruble banknote though. So here is the red 10 ruble and the 25 ruble is the purple one. And really nicely done to have the different denomination in different colors, by the way. Yeah, so that's the standard circulation banknotes of the early 20th century Russian Empire before it all went down the drain. And we shall do a peek into what came after. Or after and after, these all continued to circulate during the Russian Civil War until eventually being replaced by the Soviet ruble in the 1920s. Over here we have new issues of the 250 and 500 rubles issued or intended to be issued by the provisional government. The provisional government is the government that followed after the dethronement of the Tsar in 1917, as can be seen here. This one were intended to be issued by the new Russian Republic, a democratic bourgeoisie republic in opposition to the Reds. These ones were the other side, the whites, who ruled the provisional government before being toppled by the Reds, thus starting the Civil War. But they never got as far as actually printing and issuing these ones under their rule, as it ended in late 1917. But not letting the time and resources go to waste, these bourgeoisie democratic republican banknotes were issued by the Red Soviet government in 1918. Yes. But I mean, they also continued to issue Russian imperial banknotes, so them issuing their republican bourgeoisie banknotes, I mean, wouldn't be that surprising either. Issuing banknotes of forms of government that they despised. 250. And yes, alongside the double eagle, which continued to be the eagle of arms, but part of the coat of arms of Russia, we indeed have a swastika, and yes, that surprised me as well. But this is prior to the Nazis who destroyed that symbol, and it's a symbol of peace and prosperity. This one being issued in 1918, before the Nazis even existed and adopted it. So yes, it has bad connotations, but here it actually had good connotations. Being a symbol of a free, republican, prosperous Russia, I suppose. And it's a really nice colorful bill besides that. Looking really pretty. And then we have his larger, bigger brother. Also with a swastika in the middle. It's the 1000 ruble. Also the series of 1917. Intended to be issued by the provisional government and the Republican Russia, but in practice issued by the Reds and the Soviets. Now, I believe this is the first proper 1000 ruble banknote that existed. Like I said before, that being bonds and certificates of wealth. But here we actually have a proper banknote with a 1000 ruble denomination, which is so colorful and pretty. And that, I believe, is the State Duma, the Parliament of Russia. And you can see them, of course, belonging to the same series with the same design of 1917. You have to excuse me for repeating myself so much. I guess I'm not really that good at making these videos. But before ending this video and continuing another time with the Civil War, or the later Civil War and all those factions issuing their own money, we have in my big Russian album over here we shall take a look. Over here. Now these all will be featured in the other video. But here we have a provisional, not intended as in the provisional government, but I suppose, but not really. A provisional, like a temporary, light hearted no but a simplistic issue of 1 ruble issued by, or let's not actually open up that one. I have duplicates over here, at least for this kind of banknote. I believe the text is mostly the same. So it's a really simple design. And yeah, it was printed in many denominations. 1 ruble, 5 ruble, 10 ruble. And I have another 10 ruble over here, so we can check out the other side. Which looks like a certificate, really. And you can also see the year 1918 actually being printed and made in 1918, unlike the 1917 and a lot of the other those banknotes also been issued much later than the year printed on them. But the other side of all these banknotes look like this, with the year 1918, just with different denominations. So this, as you might realize, exists in many different denominations. 1, 5, 10, I don't think 3 actually, but perhaps, but I don't think so. 25, 50 rubles, and yep, 100 rubles, 250 rubles, and 500 rubles, and it probably exists in 1000 rubles as well, although I don't have that one, so here it's blank. So yeah, so this very simplistic design of, I don't really know if it was the printing technology that was lacking when they made these ones, or if they just wanted money really fast and couldn't be bothered to put in quality into the banknotes. Yeah, so as I said, 1918, basically the same design, looks like a certificate. And looking really cheap, made out of really thin paper. But watermarked, of course. Not to be too easily faked, though. Forged. Yeah, so a 1918 Civil War issue of the Rouble. Yeah, with the double eagle. Yeah. So I believe these also were designed by the provisional government. But yeah, issued by the Red Soviet government. Despite being very much imperial bourgeoisie money. But thank you for watching, and we shall continue another time, because I have lots of Russian money at the moment and there's much to go through. But I hope you enjoyed this initial look at my collection.